Wow, the Ups guy brought us a package today, and this is what it is. It's round on one end and oval on the other end. So this is the beginning of our custom exhaust system on the Pinto. It's going to go slip right over the collector coming off the engine and then drop straight down, and hopefully we'll be able to get some 90-degree vertical U-bends that will bring that exhaust right under the car and fit nice and close to the bottom of the car and not drag on the ground. Okay, so we took one of our collectors and cut it off about 2¼ inches, something like that. And now we slid our transition round to oval onto our collector. And now we've got a nice 2½ inch round to 2½ inch oval collector, essentially. Now we'll probably have to trim this here somewhere, and maybe even on some sort of an angle. We've got to get a U-bend now, a vertical U-bend, because this comes straight down off the header. And then what we're going to want to do is curve back that way under the cross member. So that'll be the next part of the puzzle, how we get that done.
Well, if you've been following along, we're trying to suss out the exhaust system. And the OG, I think, got a set of headers and swapped them side for side so that the outlet is in the front, which is okay. But then you got to come down and go underneath the cross member and back, and what was on there was horrendous. And we've gone ahead and bought these 2½ inch collector pipes extensions. What was on there before was 2½ down to 2 inch and then around. And one of the problems we have now is that this 2½ hits right there on that steering box. So the other day we got our transitions from round to oval, and we got one sort of mocked up, so we're going to swap this one for that one and see how it looks. So now we've got our round to oval transition bolted in there, and you can't really see back in there, but we're just clearing the steering box now. We may end up putting a little dimple in there just to give it a little more clearance. And one of the other things that we can see, if you're sort of looking at things on the level, is that that pipe comes down on an angle. It's kind of tilted to the inside. So what we're going to have to do is get our U-bend that comes down and goes under the cross member, and we'll have to take that angle, maybe cut this pipe on an angle when we butt the other one up against it and weld it back together. We're going to have to see how we do that, and that U-bend is probably going to cut away quite a bit of this transition to come from the U-bend and then go under the car. We'll have to see what the radius is, but that's the beginning of our oval exhaust system. Yeah, we'll just go around here. Sometimes you got to think outside the tube.
So one of the things that's going on with this Pinto is this kind of wonky gas pedal, and this hunk of aluminum something or other, angle iron I guess it is, bolted to something, and then we have this pedal way down here, and of course it's extremely close to the brake pedal. I'm going to have to heat that brake pedal and move that over, you know, split the difference between the clutch and the gas anyway. Trimmed, as you remember, trimmed the clutch pedal so I can move that brake pedal over a little bit. That's really tricky there. But the bigger problem is this is cable operated, this throttle pedal, and it just doesn't feel right. I can't hardly get the camera up under there to show what's going on, but hopefully you can hear that sort of sawing business going on every time you push on the throttle cable, and I'll show you in a minute what I think the problem is. So what the OG has done here is put this cable operated throttle in, and he's run the cable through this piece of tubing that's bent like a winding road. And you know, I didn't graduate college, but I went for a little while, and you know, the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line, not a big S-curve. And I think what's happening is you have this cable in here, and it's trying to go straight from here to here, but it's got to go around these two bends in the process, and it's just sawing its way slowly through this tubing in both cases, probably on the inside here and the inside here. And the gas pedal just doesn't feel right. I mean, it ought to snap shut. I've got two big heavy springs on there, and it ought to snap shut. But what's happening is the cable is dragging on there so bad that it just doesn't. And we're gonna have to try to fix that, and that ain't gonna be fun because that tube is bolted up through the firewall there, way up under the dash, and I don't know how easy it's going to be to get at that. Ideally, what you'd like is your cable to come in a straight line. So I'm not quite sure how we do that. We could put a bell crank, some sort of bell crank here, so the cable pulled out here and then went across and pulled there, or perhaps we could put a different pedal under there that had a bell crank and had the arm over here. I did buy another cable kit, and instead of the steel tube, it comes with like a braided line with a Teflon lining in it, which would be a little better, but really it still wants to work in a straight line. I don't think it's practical to have this curve like this, you know, on a big heavy push-pull cable. You know, that might work a little different, but not on this. And this cable is not, I mean, it's going to be abrasive. The other thing that I noticed operating up under the dash there, as much as I was able to see, is it doesn't look like the pedal is moving the cable right away. So seems to be a bunch of slop in there, so the point where you're pushing on the pedal and really nothing's happening because the cable isn't moving yet. So that's going to need some work.